What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to another time lapse, and this is the one. This is the project. I have been working on this for like 2 months now because I couldn't record this all at once. It's just such a slog as the game goes on. The process, 200 years a day. This has been recording on and off on my computer for probably a month and a half to 2 months. But I have got for you today a time lapse from the year 1444 to the year 10,000. Early on, sort of the normal expansion that we expect. Muscovy's growing. Uzbek is actually doing quite well. We see quite a bit of growth out of them. Ethiopia is expanding quite a bit in Africa. The Ottomans are starting to push into the Mamluks, and Portugal has managed to take most of North Africa there, if not like all of North Africa there. That is quite a bit. It looks like the two Sicilies might have formed. It took a little bit of Tunisia, but that has now been taken away from them. We got England and Brazil are going for the colonial game, and our first big surprise of the run, did England inherit Castile? That's crazy. That is a huge early boost for England here as we progress and see exactly where things are going to go to be able to have that giant jump. Korea is also looking like they might be a powerhouse, as well as Afghanistan. Afghanistan is not a country we often see survive to the end, so that'll be interesting there. The Ottomans, it completely imploded. It looks like we have a powerful Bulgaria. Yes, that is a powerful Bulgaria controlling the Balkans and part of the Asia Minor, although they are now being pushed back by the Mamluks. And that Bohemia is thick. That is crazy. Scandinavia has also formed. And Delhi, although that says Bengali India in the Delhi green. Not 100% certain what's going on in India, but there's some stuff definitely happening there. In the United States, we've got Alaska, we've got Canada, we've got Louisiana, we've got Mexico, and we've got Brazil. So, no United States, but don't worry, we've got Louisiana and Canada, so hey, what could possibly go wrong? It appears to me that Provence, that might be Provence taking the southern half of France there, and Chile has nearly unified Italy. What in the world is going on? Yeah, Bengal is just the Delhi green. Afghanistan's trying to form the Mongol Empire at this point. Azerbaijan has managed to unify a huge chunk of Central Africa. That white is, that's nice. I'm not gonna lie. That is really nice. Mexico has almost completely eaten up Louisiana. They tried to tell us about the border, and this is what happens. Just Mexico expanding into North America. What can you do about it? Pasai taking half of Indonesia and the southern half of China. That's solid. Majapahit being in Siberia. I feel like that's not where they're supposed to be. Afghanistan is trying so hard to expand and stay alive, but Bengal, that is now Delhi, is continuing to push into them, and Afghanistan's now just in Siberia area and not in Afghanistan quite as much anymore. Bohemia continues to just be a powerhouse, and Liege is destroying France and Scandinavia while also taking territory from Bohemia? What in the world is going on in Europe right now? England also appears to be pushing into France, and we've got our first really sort of big formable in the Bengal-Delhi combo country turning into Hindustan. But they are being pushed by the Mamluks. France just inherited Scandinavia. I don't know if that's going to help them in their struggles for survival that they're going through right now, but they need something to work out for them because they are being hit on all sides. Louisiana barely exists in the New World anymore, and it'll be interesting to see who Mexico turns their sights on, whether Canada to the north or Brazil to the south. Songhai is continuing their conquest of West Africa and sort of just unifying that area there, although France appears to be taking some colonies from them. Kilwa has, that Azerbaijan empire that we saw in Central Africa is almost completely gone, with Kilwa being the dominant power in South Africa now. Chile has formed Italy. Nope, they are still Chile. I thought maybe that said Italy. And France has been completely pushed out of France. And Liege just dominating in Europe. I did not see that coming at all. This Europe is crazy right now. With Liege, Bohemia, Chile, England owning Spain but losing territory as the Songhai are invading. Pasai is completely just China now. They don't even own their Indonesian provinces anymore. Afghanistan has gotten as far away from Afghanistan as they can. And the Mamluks are absolutely massive as they start to take that territory from Chile. They've completely gotten rid of sort of everyone around them, and they're pushing into Bohemia. It was sad. We had Bulgaria for a while. That was nice, and they completely eliminated that. France does still exist in Iceland, and I think that might be it. Songhai continues to expand into Africa. They are now taking those Kilwa provinces. Well, the Mamluks, I believe they're fighting wars on like all fronts right now. They're fighting Hindustan. They're fighting Bohemia. Genoa still exists. Genoa is showing up in the Crimean region. Good for them to be able to, I don't know, still be alive nearly 2,000 years into this time lapse. I still cannot get, oh my goodness. So Liege just formed France. What does that mean? The country, oh, that I believe is Iceland must have overthrown France, which made the French tag available. So then Liege became France, and they are now using that new formed power that they have to push back. They have started taking territory in Italy. They have started pushing back the Songhai in Spain, although they just did get pushed back a little in Spain themselves. But there's going to be a lot of fighting going on there as they try to determine who is going to be the one that comes out on top. The rapid Hindustan expansion, Afghanistan is lucking out a lot right now because Hindustan has really pushed their pressure onto the Mamluks, trying to prevent that eastward expansion and taking what appears to now be a weakened Mamluk. In France and Hindustan and Afghanistan are devouring people. Bohemia is falling to the French and the Afghans. The French and Hindustan are both hitting the Mamluks. And it does look like Songhai might have hit the Mamluks a little from the south also. As we are starting to see our big players forming. Mexico has taken out Alaska. They're leaving Canada because, I mean, come on. They're Canadians. They're like the nicest people in the world. But they did take Australia. So I don't really know what to make of that at all. They are also leaving Brazil. There's a lot of peace in the New World for how much just absolute war is going on elsewhere. England just inherited Bohemia. I don't know if that was a good idea because they're just going to lose that territory so fast to Hindustan and France. Chile, who I would have to say is one of the big heroes of this run, is nearly completely eliminated, which really is just unfortunate because of the fact that they were such a good, sort of a small country that we saw to come out of nowhere and to be able to pull that off. So you probably have noticed there, the camera might have shifted a tiny bit. Let me shift that back, and you noticed me moving around the mouse a little bit there. I've been having problems with my camera freezing, and so I wanted to make sure as we're 3,500 years into this time lapse that I wasn't going to need to record all of this, and camera appears to be working fine, so hopefully this will be a one take. That's what I like to see. It makes it more fun because I have no clue what this time lapse is going to end up being. I mean, I know what it looks like at the end, but I don't know how we get there, and I am just like, my mind is blown by what is going on right now. Afghanistan has taken Japan. That is crazy that they had just completely fled. And are they going to try to go? They're basically going to go the England route, which is take an island and hide on it. We got Brunei existing. We have got England has just got spotty territory everywhere. And we've got these major powers. What? I totally missed Mexico just eating Brazil, and Brazil is now basically just, I cannot remember that country in South America, but it's basically the Inca. Argentina. Brazil has been pushed into Argentina, and Mexico has started their invasion of Canada. We just saw some territory around the Great Lakes go to Mexico. That will be interesting to see if they continue to push and decide that Mexico is the only country allowed in the New World. They are also expanding in the Southeast Pacific. We see them taking some territory in Indonesia. That is always interesting to see, as this Mexico is, they're not just going to be content to sit on the New World and sort of take their winnings. They appear to want territory elsewhere, which is not something we always see from New World countries. As far as the Old World goes, at this moment, there is a little bit less conflict than what we were seeing initially, where, you know, everyone was expanding. Things have slowed down a little bit. It does look like the French have, they've pushed back against the Songhai a little bit. Both Hindustan and the French right now are hitting Afghanistan. That's going to continue pushing Afghanistan farther and farther east. But I do like that the Afghanistan also controls Afghan Arabia. So somehow they're being beaten back by Hindustan and France. They're basically a Japanese Afghanistan. But don't worry, they've got Arabia, so that's all cool. The Mamluks too still exist, which is so sad given how much of a powerhouse they were. They were such a dominant country for the vast majority of this run, and just have completely fallen apart. Which is unfortunate. I liked seeing the Mamluks succeed. It doesn't happen, honestly it doesn't happen very often, because they usually get stomped by the Ottomans. England, surprisingly, and I'm curious if there's some sort of an alliance going on between England and France that we obviously can't see right now, that's saving the English from losing a ton of their territory, because they control territory in Italy, they control territory in the Balkans, in Russia, in Africa, that they aren't losing. And I'm curious if that's because they're allied to France or one of the other major players. That's all that seems to make sense. And I'll be so interested to see when we get done, because obviously when I started this run, I loaded the game up and I saw the map at the very end. So I have an idea of sort of where some of the things are going to be playing, but I don't know the alliances. I don't know personal unions. I don't know any of that stuff. So I'm really interested when we get to the end of this to see exactly who is what and how we got to where we're going to get to. So you'll notice right now that in the Pacific Island, the Southeast Pacific, the large island in Indonesia, it is green. That is the Ternate, I believe. Either that or it's Afghanistan, and later on it becomes the Ternate. But I do know, okay, yep, no, so that is almost definitely the Ternate. And I just found that hilarious, that usually that's a country we see spawn more in, like, the, Iran region. It's more of like, I view it at least as like a Mongol tribe kind of thing. And so to see it in the Southeast Pacific is just absolutely fantastic. France appears to be having some issues with some nations popping out of them in France, but they also are starting to make work of the Songhai, which means that maybe the alliances aren't quite as powerful as we thought they were to completely prevent people from expanding. But we do see some of these countries, whether it's struggling with the expansion issues, struggling with governing capacity, and, being able to expand larger and larger and larger. The map has not changed a whole lot until just then. France just took a chunk out of Afghanistan. Mexico is still just, every now and then they take little bits from Canada, but they're kind of just letting it do its thing. France is finally, they're going after Songhai right now. They are definitely going after Afghanistan. Mexico continues to try to grow their Southeast Asia provinces, and Khalkha just popped out, and they have got exploration and colonists, because wow, that all of a sudden now Khalkha and Ceylon, they are doing quite well taking the remnants of Afghanistan, which just fell apart so quickly. The moment that things started falling apart for them, they lost that power grid. They lost Arabia. They lost all of their territories. I do believe they are still on Japan. But once things went bad for them, wow. And I think that's what we're going to see a lot of here, is these countries are all so powerful that trying to win a war against them and take huge chunks of territory is not an easy thing. Instead, what we need is for a country to have a bad decade. have, maybe bankrupt, which is never going to happen at this point. They're probably all swimming in cash. But we need something, a bunch of bad events to happen where maybe they lose to some rebels, and so they lose a power base, and then everyone jumps on them and just demolishes them. So yeah, we do, at this point, Afghanistan exists in Japan, and I believe that is it. Hindustan is massive, and Mexico finally decided that they had had enough of the Canadians and have nearly wiped them off the face of the map. France continues to work on expanding into Africa, but that is actually looking to be a process for them. Whether it's because the British Sahel is there, or the Songhai are there, or what it is, but that is a very, very slow French expansion into Africa, which appears to be a place that they would like to expand into. They just can't seem to get the press that they want to get in there. Hindustan appears to be dealing with governing capacity, which is always one of those things I go back and forth about whether or not I want to leave it on or take it off for these time lapses. And I decided to leave it on for this one because I figured if we're going to the year 10,000, I wanted to see the game as the developers made it. And so that's where we start seeing these countries pop out, countries pop in, countries pop out, countries pop in. That is the AI releasing vassals because they're trying to stay under that governing capacity. We can see now France in Africa has decided to just completely ignore the British, go around them to go through the Songhai and take that central southern African region. Opens up a new place of expansion for the French as they don't really have much to the east given the massive Hindustan that we've got going on there. Those two countries do appear to be fighting wars, but nothing major. From what I can see here, most of the conflicts between them so far have been a couple provinces on the border here and a couple provinces on the border there. England still controls a lot of its territory in Europe, but not nearly as much. They've lost the Italian and the Russian provinces, but they still do control the Balkan provinces and then those provinces in sort of the Polish region. They are finally losing some of their territory, appears, in Africa to France, as France appears to be the country that is coming out on top in all of this. Hindustan is still holding their ground on that eastern-western border. We've sort of got the great Asian-European border going on there, the fight between the two powerhouses. And Afghanistan has actually managed to take territory from Hindustan. They are starting to push back into Asia. That'll be interesting to see if they are somehow able to turn things around. Mexico is having trouble holding on to their territory in Australia, as I think that's the Brunei is now actually taking, that is Brunei, Australia. Interesting to see, because Mexico, you think, isn't really struggling with borders. You'd think if they have a colony somewhere, they can really protect it. But they are struggling there. They're still holding their territory together somewhat, but definitely not as strong as it was for a while. Afghanistan continues to expand. It looks like they're doing some colonizing on the islands around them, or taking colonies from small countries around them. We can see their name keeps getting bigger and bigger, and we finally have that clear sort of Afghanistan going across the Japanese China Sea Pacific region. Once again, that border with France and Hindustan has not really moved, but France said, hey, we don't need to go into Asia. Africa is ripe for the pickings. And we now actually do see Greece has appeared. Greece, I believe, is a vassal of France. So they must have released Greece, and they're now using them to expand into Africa. What just makes me so happy about this is that I don't think Greece owns any territory in Greece. It's literally just France said, hey, here, you're Greece, but now go take Egypt, which they still haven't taken yet. But who knows? Maybe they'll get there. Those Mamluks are absolutely tiny. Britain has managed to lose all of their territory in Africa, minus a couple little spots here and there. They have finally lost those Balkan territory, and Kilwa is actually, Africa is a mess right now. There is Kilwa in Western Africa, there is Kilwa in Eastern Africa, there's Kilwa in Madagascar. France is trying to sort of unify that region, but they're definitely struggling with it. We just had some independences pop up in the north. Khalkha appeared to have gained their independence from Hindustan. And it looks like Swadia, I think that's Swadia, got their independence from France. I'd be surprised if those last very long. Mexico has managed to regain Australia after what seemed to be a very, very long war that went on over there for control of Mexico and to see who would be the dominant power in that region. Mexico appears to be the one coming out on top. Greece is finally moving into Egypt. They still haven't taken the major cities of Alexandria and Cairo, but they are starting to take that rich Egyptian region. France continues to work to try to unify Africa, and they're trying, and I'm guessing it's a governing capacity thing because they do not seem to be able to clean that up at all. And because of the fact that they keep losing territory, gaining territory, we have the wastelands pop out and the wastelands go away, and that is just a border gore mess right there. Greece is getting bigger and bigger, which just makes me so happy. It's not a country we see very often, so even if it's the AI releasing a vassal, I am 100% here for that. Once again, the border between France and Hindustan and not much going on. I love that the name for France just left Europe and went to Africa, and they're kind of like, hey, maybe if we like put our name down here and we say like this is France, we'll have a better job of cleaning this up and keeping it together. I really want that to be the case, and now it's just a weird turny thing going on down there. All right, that's a mess. So that light green that we see down in the Southeast Pacific region north of Australia, that is the Ternate. So the Ternate has now come back. They have taken the island north of Australia. Once again, not something that we see very often at all, but they do have that sort of really easy to sort of unique light green color there. Laurakia has managed to maybe gain independence. Is that an Australian Aboriginal tribe? They have managed to take half of Australia from Mexico. That is something right there. That's not something we see every day. And once again, that border with France and Hindustan, it's just not happening. There's nothing there. There's some English left in Africa, and every now and then France likes to wrap its name around it just to be like, no, really, don't look. This is ours. We promise. It really is. And with that, that is going to bring us, we've got like 50, 60 years left, and yeah, that was a time lapse. This was an absolute monster to make. My apologies for my camera freezing there, but as I had said, there was a chance it was going to happen. I'm not sure what's happening with it, but we got to work with what we got to work with. So I've got it back to where it's working again. So let's take a look at some of the stuff we got here. First thought, Great Britain is a march of Mexico. Yeah, I did not see that one coming. Yes, that is Mexican Italy. So Mexico managed to take the islands in the Mediterranean. And Sardinia exists on Corsica. I love this Afghanistan that's just Japan. I love Brazil and Brazilian Upper Peru, which isn't all of Brazil, just in Peru right now. I did not realize that this dark red is Burgundy. They are a monastic order and they are a vassal under France. And they have split up South Africa between the Burgundian South Africa and the British Natal. One of my favorite things to do in these time lapses is go to the islands, because you find things like Korea still exists. They just left Korea a long time ago. I also love that Iceland got their independence from France like 7,000 years ago and then just chilled. While the rest of the world burned, they were just like, we got our island, we're cool. Almost 9,000 years later and nobody colonized Greenland. It's just there. You could colonize it if you wanted to. The natives look kind of friendly. Hey, look it's the Congo existing on Cabo Verde. Religiously, we've got the Catholics, which is France and Mexico, versus the Sunni, which is all of Asia, and that's going to be Hindustan. I do love that Protestantism does exist in Iceland. They just brought Protestant with them and decided not to go forth and tell all the nations, but instead to keep it all to themselves. Also, big fan that Afghanistan went Shinto. So they really, when they fled to Japan, they just fully embraced Japanese culture. Culturally, that Swedish got pushed. We got Ruthenian expanded. The yellow is French and the orange is Germanic. So we had quite a bit of Europeans just spreading their culture everywhere. And then same with pushing it into the New World. Dynastically, we've got three ruling powers. We've got the Danju in French, we've got the Khilji in Hindustan, and we've got the Nabaj in Mexico. Economically, honestly, the world's doing pretty good. I don't see really anywhere here that's been left behind. Most of the world is developed. And last but not least, we have got the great powers of the world. We've got France with 20,000 development, Hindustan with 16,000, Mexico with 13,000, Brunei with 15, Afghanistan with 14, Brazil with 600, Hawaii with 535, and Laurakia with 377. One of the fun things when you let a time lapse run this long is some countries get so powerful that you've got small countries that end up on the top of the great powers list. Laurakia not showing up until like the last 1,000 years and making the list of the top 8 great powers is just clutch. Also, this might be the only time we ever see in a time lapse Hawaii. Hawaii, with their 80,000 troops and each of their provinces having like over 100 development each, is just chilling in, I would have to guess, is absolute paradise. And with that, that is going to bring us to the end of the longest video I have ever recorded. And that was actually, honestly, a lot more fun than I thought it was going to be. I wasn't sure if I was going to commentate this because, honestly, that was a long time to just kind of go with it on the fly and try not to leave too much dead air space. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. Leave a like, hit that subscribe button. I know I'll appreciate it just because the sheer amount of work that I put into this video, as well as it helps with the YouTube algorithm, helps to let people know that, hey, there's this channel, and I don't know, there's this guy who's, I think he's kind of cool and occasionally funny, but probably not that funny. But he does time lapses, so you should check him out. So you should hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, so other people know that they can watch a really awkward guy, you know, commentate to EU4 time lapses. Alright, I'll see you guys next time. Reeth out.